I am not a person, though you can't tell, right? But I'm not a person who really likes to be out in the front. But I consider this a part of the work that has to be done. And I think that there has to be a voice in this moment to give, one, context to this work, right, to what we're experiencing and what we're seeing, but to also keep the focus where it should be on the most marginalized people, on the most marginalized voices, on the people with the least resources, the people that nobody's going to have conversations about. In the 90s and coming into the early aughts, there was this real movement around Black women and gender-based violence, reproductive justice movement, and all of that was sort of taken off. And so it created a space to have these conversations more widely, but it was a very academic space, right? It was still really difficult to have community-based conversations about these issues. So I would go off to these conferences and have these wonderful conversations and strategy sessions with people who, like-minded people, but they were studying the issue, but they weren't actually in a day-to-day living the issue. They weren't working with young people or talking to people in the community. And so it was just this real struggle of how do we take, let's actionize again, how do we take this wonderful dialogue and bring that to the community? And so that was a real struggle for me for a long time. Mm-hmm. I really like to talk to young people directly on the campus. It's like, let's get down and dirty and strategize around how you can do different things to move the needle on your campus. Mm-hmm. And so that may look like the Black Student Union working with the sorority, the white sorority, mm-hmm. right? That may look like working across these, and I'm not saying that in sort of this kumbaya kind of whatever way. I mean, if you're gonna work across various lines of issues, people need to understand those other issues and be invested in those other issues, and at least in ways that allow you to work together. Yeah. But I think we have to think outside the box, and students are the best folks to think outside the box. Mm-hmm. And so that's been my biggest privilege, is to talk about and get a diverse, literally a diverse group of folks at the table from these schools, and let's strategize together about what you can do differently on this campus and off this campus, mm-hmm. to move the needle. If you get the wherewithal to share with somebody this thing that you've been holding in the pit of your stomach for your whole life, and their response is, I'm so sorry that happened to you, right? There's an othering that happens in that moment, well-meaning of course, and people don't know what to say, but there's something else that happens if in that moment the response is, I'm so sorry, I know how you feel, because that happened to me too. Now that's a drawing in, right? We've created a relationship, even if it's just for a moment. There is a connection that happens in that moment that nobody else can understand but the two of you. We have been having a sustained conversation about sexual violence for 4 months. Yep. And people are like, what next? What now? Yeah. Have we won? Right. Did we win? Yeah. I'm like, yeah. No. No, we didn't win. Mm-hmm. Cut it out. Yeah. Yeah. We have work to do. I spent the first, all of like October and November just on TV shows like, what do you think about Kevin Spacey? What do you think? And it was just like whack-a-mole. Every time somebody else committed a crime, every time there was another accused, it was like, bring out the founder of the Me Too movement and let her, and then finally I was just like, stop. I don't want to keep talking about individuals. Y'all gonna keep making boogeymen, and we should be talking about systems. You think that a person like Harvey Weinstein, right? A person like Harvey Weinstein doesn't just exist in a vacuum. Yep. You don't just, for 20 years, do the things that you do and you're not supported by a whole system of folks, mm-hmm. that are invested in him. There were people who were invested in him being rich, in him being successful, in him, and ignoring this. So we don't care about human dignity, mm-hmm. as much as we care about a dollar. And that's why somebody like Harvey Weinstein can flourish. I often talk about this is not a movement about trauma, it's a movement about joy. Mm-hmm. And because joy saved my life. And it was a point in my life when I had to make a commitment. There is a way sometimes that survivors wear their trauma as an identity. Mm-hmm. It becomes a part of who you are and you lean into it every day. And we don't need to. We don't have tools, though, and resources to do something different, right? It just becomes comfortable almost. And so at some point when I realized that that was, not only that it was what I was doing, I was watching other people doing it around me, I decided to shift and lean into my joy. And then I became obsessive about it, right? I literally cultivate joy in my life. I literally find ways, in all the ways that joy exists, I just take it and I hold on to it because it's not always going to be there. It's not always going to be good. I think one of the dangers in this moment is that we talk a lot, I say survivor all the time. I talk about being a survivor all the time. And I think it is good to move from victim to survivor, but I also think that when you have a person like me who becomes this figure of a person who's a survivor, people think that I'm a destination. I am a goal. I have people ask me every day, how do I get like you? I want to be healed. And I'm like, baby, you don't want to be like me, okay? We all have our own journey. And so I think we need to talk more about survival, right? Being a survivor is a title. Being surviving is a choice. And so I literally wake up every day and make the choice to survive. When I get connected to the pain that I've held around this, and I think about somebody else holding that pain, having that pain, when I think about ways that people could have interrupted that pain for me at an earlier age, it's motivating because I just don't want anybody else to have it.